The red dust of the Australian outback stretched endlessly under twin suns that shouldn't exist. Corporal Devon Thrace wiped sweat from his brow and checked the atmospheric readings again. 3 months since the portal storms had scarred Earth's sky, bringing visitors both wondrous and terrible. His job was simple: monitor the old mining facility, report anomalies, and stay out of trouble. Devon had chosen this isolation deliberately. After 6 years as a combat medic, watching friends die in wars that solved nothing, he craved silence. The abandoned facility gave him exactly that. Just him, the equipment, and memories he tried hard to forget. The seismic sensor screamed. Devon bolted upright, coffee spilling across his monitors. The readings showed an impact 3 kilometers north, right in the dead zone where nothing lived except scorpions and regret. He grabbed his field kit and headed for his rover, already knowing he should report this first. Already knowing he wouldn't. The crash site glowed with residual heat. Whatever had fallen had come down hard and fast, leaving a crater the size of his living quarters. Devon approached carefully, scanner active, expecting debris from a failed satellite or portal storm remnants. Instead, he found something breathing. The creature lay curled at the crater's center, no larger than a wolf. Scales the color of burnished copper caught the dying light. One wing bent at an impossible angle. Blood, luminescent blue, pooled beneath its small form. Devon's medical training cataloged injuries automatically. Severe dehydration, multiple fractures, internal bleeding, exposure trauma. His survival instinct screamed a different message. Dragon. Run. Everyone knew about the Draketh. The dragon species had destroyed 17 colony worlds before humanity even knew they existed. Their adults could crack starship hulls with their claws. Their fire breath melted titanium. The Interstellar Coalition had standing orders. Any dragon, any age, any circumstance, terminate on sight. This one was dying. Devon knelt beside it, hands moving before his brain caught up. The creature's eyes flickered open, brilliant amber with vertical pupils that focused on his face. He felt something brush against his mind, not words exactly, but concepts wrapped in desperate emotion. Cold. Pain. Alone. Mama gone. Please help. Please. I'm not your mama, Devon whispered, but his canteen was already open, water trickling into the creature's mouth. It drank weakly, making soft sounds that reminded him of the orphaned kitten he'd rescued as a child. The dragon's scales felt warm despite the dropping temperature. Up close, Devon could see the defect clearly. Its left wing would never fold properly. The bone structure was malformed, probably congenital. Among predator species, the weak were abandoned. This little one had been thrown from a ship like garbage. Devon's scanner showed no other life signs for 20 kilometers. No rescue coming. No one watching. Just him and a baby dragon that projected emotions so pure and desperate they made his chest ache. He thought about his commanding officer, General Briggs, who'd ordered a mercy kill on a wounded soldier because extraction was too risky. Thought about the regulations, the fear, the very good reasons why dragons were considered universal threats. Thought about every time someone in power had decided a life wasn't worth the trouble of saving. Screw it, Devon muttered. He stripped off his jacket despite the cold and wrapped the small dragon carefully, mindful of the broken wing. The creature made a sound like a purr and pressed against his chest, projecting waves of gratitude and trust. His rover protested the extra weight, but started. Devon drove back to the facility as night fell, the dragon tucked against him, occasionally projecting simple thoughts. Safe now, thank you. Mama found me. Still not your mama, Devon said, but his arms held the creature tighter. The facility's med bay was designed for humans, but Devon improvised. He set the wing using techniques he'd learned on battlefield triage, mixed antibiotics into water, found protein packs that the dragon devoured with desperate hunger. All the while he felt its mind touching his, not reading thoughts but sharing feelings. Relief. Safety. Love. By midnight, the dragon slept peacefully on a nest of blankets. Devon sat against the wall, watching the small chest rise and fall, and wondered what the hell he'd just done. Harboring an illegal alien of a hostile species carried a life sentence. If anyone discovered this, his career would end. His freedom would end. Everything would end. The dragon stirred in sleep, making soft chirping sounds. Through their connection, Devon felt its dreams. Warmth, food, a presence that meant safety. It was dreaming about him, Devon hadn't felt needed in years. After the war, after his discharge, after realizing that all his medical training couldn't fix the things that were actually broken in the world, he'd chosen numbness over purpose, chosen isolation over connection, chosen to stop caring because caring led to loss. This small creature was already changing that. "You need a name," Devon said quietly. The dragon's copper scales gleamed in the dim light, reminding him of embers in a dying fire. "How about Ember?" The dragon's tail twitched and Devon felt a warm pulse of approval through their bond. It liked the name, liked him, had already decided he was family worth trusting completely. Devon pulled a blanket over his shoulders and settled in to watch through the night. Tomorrow he'd figure out the logistics. Tonight he'd just make sure this little life kept breathing. That was enough. That had to be enough. But as Ember curled tighter into her blankets, projecting contentment and absolute trust, Devon felt something he hadn't felt since before the war. Purpose. The dangerous, terrifying, beautiful kind that made you want to protect something more than you wanted to protect yourself. Outside, the twin suns began their rise. Inside, a medic and a dragon slept peacefully, neither knowing they'd just started a revolution. Ember knocked over the water recycler for the 4th time that week. Devon watched from his workstation as 50 liters of precious filtered water spread across the floor. The young dragon looked back at him with an expression that could only be described as sheepish. "You're supposed to drink from it, not investigate its internal mechanics," Devon called out, grabbing towels. He walked over to mop up the mess while Ember lowered her head apologetically. 2 months of recovery had transformed the dying creature into something surprisingly energetic and curious. Ember had grown considerably. Now the size of a large dog, she moved with the awkward enthusiasm of a puppy still discovering how her body worked. Her copper scales had brightened to a brilliant metallic sheen. The broken wing had healed as best it could, but Devon's fears were confirmed. The bone had set crooked despite his efforts. Ember would never fly like other dragons. Perhaps that's why her kind had discarded her. Devon ran his hand along Ember's neck, feeling the warm scales beneath his palm. She leaned into the touch, making a sound somewhere between a purr and a hum. In his mind, he felt waves of affection and an emotion that translated to sorry about the water. "It's fine. We'll work on your coordination," Devon said with a smile. The past 2 months had been revelatory. Ember learned faster than any animal Devon had encountered. She understood human speech now. Even if she couldn't speak herself, she'd figured out how to open doors with her claws. She could sense his emotions before he fully felt them himself, and most impressively, she'd started helping with his work. Devon watched as Ember moved toward the solar panels that needed cleaning. The dragon had observed him doing this task dozens of times. Now she carefully brushed dust away with her tail, moving with deliberate precision. When she finished, she looked back at Devon with unmistakable pride. "Good work," Devon said, and Ember's chest puffed up with joy. Their peaceful routine shattered that afternoon when Devon's proximity alarm triggered. A vehicle approaching. His stomach dropped. Visitors were extremely rare at the facility, and rarely meant anything good. Devon quickly guided Ember into the storage bay. "Stay here. Stay quiet. Don't come out no matter what you hear." The dragon sensed his fear and pressed close, not wanting to separate. "I mean it, Ember. People can't know about you. Not yet." The vehicle pulled up as Devon sealed the storage bay door. Captain Winters climbed out, her military bearing unmistakable even in civilian clothes. She'd been Devon's commanding officer during the war, a woman who'd saved his life twice and never let regulations override good judgment. "Corporal Thrace," she greeted him, her sharp eyes scanning the facility. "You missed 3 check-in reports. Central Command sent me to verify you haven't been eaten by local wildlife. Appreciate the concern, Captain, but I'm fine," Devon said, positioning himself between Winters and the storage bay. "Just been busy with maintenance work." Winters' eyes narrowed. "You've upgraded the power systems. New water filtration. That's extensive work for one person maintaining a monitoring station." She took a step toward the storage bay. "You got unauthorized personnel here, Devon?" "No, ma'am. Just me." A loud crash echoed from inside the storage bay. Ember had knocked something over. Winters' hand dropped to her sidearm. "What was that?" "Equipment malfunction," Devon said quickly. "Old facility, things break, another crash." Then a distinctly non-mechanical sound. a chirp followed by a low rumble. Winters drew her weapon and moved past Devon before he could stop her. She kicked open the storage bay door, weapon raised. Ember stood in the center of the room, having knocked over a stack of supply crates. The dragon froze when she saw Winters, her amber eyes going wide with fear. For several heartbeats, nobody moved. Then Winters whispered, "Sweet merciful stars." "That's a Draketh." Devon stepped between them. "Captain, wait." "Get away from it, Devon." Her voice remained steady, but her weapon never wavered. "Those things destroyed New Geneva, killed 40,000 people. This one's a juvenile. She's not dangerous. Not dangerous yet. They grow fast, Devon. In a few months, that thing will be able to tear through reinforced steel." Winters kept her weapon trained on Ember. "I need to report this. You know I have to." Ember made a soft, frightened sound. Devon felt her terror washing through their connection. The dragon didn't understand the words, but she understood danger. She understood that this woman wanted to hurt her. Despite her size, despite her predator nature, Ember moved behind Devon like a child hiding behind a parent. "Look at her," Devon said quietly. "Really look, Captain." "Does that seem like a monster to you?" Winters' aim wavered slightly. Ember peeked out from behind Devon, her expression fearful but not aggressive. The dragon's emotions were so strong that even Winters seemed to sense them. Fear, confusion, a desperate desire not to be hurt again. "Her own kind threw her away," Devon continued. "Abandoned her because her wing won't heal right. I found her dying in a crater. I couldn't just walk away. The regulations are clear, Devon. Any Draketh gets reported. Any age, any circumstance, and I know. But those regulations were written by people who never met one, who only saw them as weapons." Winters lowered her weapon slightly, though her hand remained tense. "Devon, they'll execute her. They'll court-martial you. Why risk everything for something that could turn on you?" Devon didn't have a simple answer. He just knew that when he looked at Ember, he didn't see humanity's enemy. He saw a frightened child that had been abandoned. He saw something that trusted him completely and depended on him for survival. He saw the first thing in years that had made his life feel meaningful. "Come here, Ember," Devon said gently. The dragon hesitated, then slowly approached, keeping Devon between herself and Winters. She moved with careful, controlled steps. She lowered her head submissively and sat, making herself as small and non-threatening as possible. Ember looked at Winters with intelligent eyes that held no malice, only hope that she might understand. Winters stared for a long moment. She holstered her weapon, though her hand stayed near it. "This is insane. I know. The Interstellar Coalition inspector arrives next month. Standard facility check. She'll find it." "I know that too," Winters cursed under her breath. She looked at Devon, then at Ember, then back at Devon. Finally, she sighed heavily. "You've got 1 month to figure something out. I won't report this now, but if that creature shows any sign of aggression, any sign at all, I'm calling it in immediately." Relief flooded through Devon. "Thank you, Captain." "Don't thank me. I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my career." She walked back toward her vehicle, then paused. "Devon, those things destroyed my sister's colony. I watched the footage. So understand this. I'm trusting you because I can see you care about it. But if you're wrong, if it turns, people will die. That weight is on you now." Devon watched her drive away, dust trailing behind her vehicle. He felt Ember press against his leg, seeking comfort. The dragon knew something serious had happened, even if she didn't fully understand the details. 1 month, Devon said quietly, running his hand over Ember's scales. "We've got 1 month to prove you're different." Ember looked up at him with complete trust, projecting feelings of love and family through their bond. Devon felt the weight of Winter's words settle on his shoulders. He'd taken responsibility for a life again, for a creature that the entire galaxy feared and wanted dead. But when Ember nuzzled against him, making soft, contented sounds, Devon knew he'd make the same choice again. He just hoped it wouldn't destroy them both. That night, as Ember slept peacefully in her nest of blankets, Devon sat at his workstation researching dragon biology and interstellar law. Somewhere in the data there had to be a way forward, a path that didn't end with Ember's execution and his imprisonment. He found articles about Draketh attacks, academic papers on their aggressive nature, psychological profiles that painted them as irredeemable predators. Nothing that helped. Nothing that explained why Ember was different, or maybe she wasn't different. Maybe she was exactly what her species could be if they were raised with compassion instead of violence, if they were given a chance to be something other than weapons. Devon looked at the sleeping dragon, her scales gleaming softly in the dim light. 1 month to change minds that had been made up long before Ember was born. 1 month to prove that monsters were made, not born. It seemed impossible. But as Ember stirred in her sleep, making happy chirping sounds and projecting dreams of flying despite her broken wing, Devon made a decision. Impossible had never stopped him before. He began composing a message to someone he never thought he'd contact again. Dr. Helena Voss, a xenobiologist who'd been exiled from the scientific community for suggesting that Draketh intelligence was being underestimated. If anyone would help, it would be her. Devon hit send and leaned back, watching Ember dream. 1 month. They could do this. They had to. The message from Dr. Helena Voss arrived 3 days later, delivered through encrypted channels that Devon barely understood. She would help, but her assistance came with a price. Full documentation of everything Ember did. Every behavior, every emotion, every sign of intelligence. If they were going to challenge centuries of fear and prejudice, they needed evidence. Devon spent the next 3 weeks recording everything. Ember learning to identify edible plants from poisonous ones. Ember solving puzzle boxes designed for human children. Ember detecting a gas leak in the facility's ventilation system before Devon's sensors picked it up. Each discovery made Devon more certain. Ember wasn't just intelligent, she was brilliant. But brilliant wasn't enough. The galaxy had seen intelligent predators before. Intelligence didn't erase the memory of burning colonies and broken ships. The Interstellar Coalition inspector arrived exactly on schedule. Inspector General Renwick was a severe woman in her 60s, with gray hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes that had seen too much suffering. She'd lost family at New Geneva. She'd witnessed the aftermath of Draketh attacks. She was the worst possible person to discover Ember. Devon had prepared the canyon shelter again, stocked and hidden. But Ember refused to go. You need to hide, Devon urged, feeling the dragon's stubborn resistance through their bond. No more hiding. Ember's thoughts came through clearly now, after months of their connection deepening. Stay with you. Face together, they'll kill you. Maybe, but running means living in fear forever. Rather die standing with you than hide like I did nothing wrong. Devon's heart broke at the wisdom in those thoughts. Ember was barely 6 months old, but she understood courage better than most humans twice Devon's age. When Inspector Renwick entered the facility, she found Devon and Ember waiting in the main hall. The dragon sat calmly beside him, head lowered in a gesture of peace. Renwick's hand went to her weapon immediately. Corporal Thrace, what in the name of sanity is that doing here? Her name is Ember, ma'am. And she's here because I chose to save her life rather than let her die alone. Renwick's face went pale with rage. That creature's species has killed millions. And you're keeping it as a pet? She's not a pet. She's family. Family? Renwick laughed bitterly. That thing would eat you if it got hungry enough. As if responding to the accusation, Ember stood and walked to the facility's food storage. She carefully selected a protein pack, brought it back, and placed it at Devon's feet. Then she returned to her spot and sat, projecting a simple thought. You forgot breakfast. I worry when you don't eat, Renwick stared. What just happened? She takes care of me, Devon said simply. She worries when I skip meals. Gets upset when I work too long without rest. Last week, she alerted me to a storm 3 hours before my weather system detected it. He paused. She's not what you think she is. I think she's a time bomb waiting to explode. A sound outside made everyone turn. Dr. Helena Voss entered, followed by a group of people Devon didn't recognize. Scientists, journalists, even a few civilian witnesses that Captain Winters had apparently contacted. They'd come to observe, to document, to bear witness to whatever happened next. Inspector Renwick, Dr. Voss said calmly. Before you make any decisions, I'd like to present 3 months of behavioral data on this individual. Data won't change what she is, Renwick snapped. Perhaps not. But it might change what we think she could become. What followed was unlike anything Devon had imagined. Dr. Voss presented her findings with clinical precision. Ember's problem-solving abilities, her emotional intelligence, her capacity for empathy and self-sacrifice, Each piece of evidence painted a picture of a creature that defied everything humanity thought they knew about Dracoth. But the real turning point came when a child wandered into the facility. Nobody knew how the girl got past security. She was maybe 7 years old, curious and fearless in the way only children can be. She walked straight up to Ember, who tensed in surprise. "Are you a dragon?" the girl asked, reaching out to touch Ember's scales. Every adult in the room froze. Renwick's hand went to her weapon. Devon started forward, ready to intervene. But Ember moved faster than any of them. The dragon lowered herself flat to the ground, making herself as small and non-threatening as possible. She extended one wing carefully, creating a sheltered space. The girl laughed and sat down beneath it, completely unafraid. Ember projected feelings of gentleness and protection, wrapping the child in warmth. "She's soft," the girl said, petting Ember's scales. "And she feels nice, like when Mom hugs me." The room remained silent as the child's mother rushed in, panic on her face. She stopped short when she saw her daughter sitting peacefully beneath Ember's wing. The dragon making soft, soothing sounds. "Please don't hurt her," the mother whispered. Unsure if she was talking to the dragon or the humans, Ember carefully lifted her wing, allowing the girl to run back to her mother. The dragon watched them reunite, then turned to look at Inspector Renwick. Devon felt Ember's thoughts clearly. "See? I can be gentle. I can be trusted. Please give me a chance." Renwick's weapon hand shook. Tears streamed down her face as decades of hatred warred with what she'd just witnessed. "My brother died at New Geneva," she said quietly. "His children, his wife, all gone because of things that looked like you." Ember approached slowly, carefully. She lowered her head and pressed it gently against Renwick's hand. Through their connection, Devon felt what Ember was projecting: sorrow for loss, understanding of pain, a wish that things could be different. Renwick broke down completely, one hand on Ember's head, sobbing for everything she'd lost and everything she'd believed. The dragon stayed perfectly still, offering silent comfort to someone who had every reason to hate her. When Renwick finally composed herself, she looked at Devon. "I can't make this decision alone." "This is too big. What do you need?" Devon asked. "A tribunal. Full coalition review. Every species that's been affected by Dracoth gets a voice." She looked at Ember. "But I'll recommend they hear you out. Both of you." The tribunal was held 3 weeks later on the coalition station orbiting Earth. Representatives from 40 species gathered to decide Ember's fate. The prosecution presented evidence of Dracoth atrocities. The defense countered with Dr. Voss's research and testimony from everyone who'd met Ember. But the moment that changed everything came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Quen of the Tethan people approached the stand. His species had lost their homeworld to a Dracoth attack just 18 months ago. If anyone embodied the coalition's fear and hatred, it was him. "I came here demanding this creature's death," Quen said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into human standard. "I wanted vengeance for my world. My people, my family who burned." He paused, looking directly at Ember, who sat quietly beside Devon despite the crowd's hostility. "But I've spent 3 days watching this individual, studying her behavior, reading Dr. Voss's findings." Quen's voice cracked. "And I realized something. We didn't lose our world to this dragon. We lost it to fear, to prejudice, to the belief that some species are born evil. If we kill this child to satisfy our hatred, we become the monsters we claim to oppose." The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates shouted agreement. Others called for Quen's removal. In the chaos, an explosion rocked the station. Emergency alarms blared. The tribunal chamber's viewport cracked. A section of the station's hull had been breached in a terrorist attack from a radical group that wanted all dragons eliminated. Dozens of people were trapped in a collapsing section near the breach. Security forces scrambled, but they couldn't reach the trapped people fast enough. The section would decompress in minutes. Ember stood looking at Devon. "Help them?" "Your wing," Devon said. "You can't fly in zero gravity. Try anyway." "Have to try." Before anyone could stop her, Ember launched herself through the emergency access, using her claws and tail to pull herself through corridors in the low-gravity section. Devon followed, his heart in his throat. They found the trapped people in the observation deck, the external door warped and leaking atmosphere. Ember wedged herself against the door, using her body as a seal while Devon worked to evacuate the civilians. The dragon strained against the vacuum pressure, scales cracking, projecting determination and pain in equal measure. The last civilian cleared just as the door gave way. The vacuum pulled at Ember, but Devon grabbed her, and together they made it to the emergency bulkhead. It sealed behind them as the observation deck tore free and tumbled into space. Ember collapsed, bleeding from multiple wounds, exhausted beyond measure. She'd risked everything to save people who wanted her dead. The tribunal's decision was unanimous. Ambassador Quen delivered the verdict personally. Ember of Earth is granted full personhood status under coalition law. She will be the first of her species to receive this designation, and her guardian Devon Thrace will be recognized as her legal advocate. He knelt beside the injured dragon. We were wrong about you. Not all of you, perhaps, but you. And maybe that's where change begins, with one individual choosing differently. 6 months later, Devon stood in the rebuilt section of the station, watching Ember interact with a delegation of young diplomats. She'd become an ambassador of sorts, proof that enemies could become family, that fear could transform into hope. Her wing never healed properly. She would never fly like other dragons. But watching her teach youngsters from 40 different species about empathy and understanding, Devon realized something. Maybe that broken wing was the greatest gift Ember could have received. It had given her the chance to become something new, something unprecedented, something better. Thank you, Devon whispered to the universe, to fate, to whatever force had brought them together. Ember looked back at him across the room and projected pure love. Not universe, you. You chose to save me when you could have walked away. You made me believe I was worth saving. And Devon, former combat medic who'd chosen isolation over connection, smiled. Because Ember had saved him too in all the ways that mattered. Together they'd proven that family wasn't defined by species. That love could bridge any divide. That the most broken things sometimes become the most beautiful. The stars shone through the viewport, vast and endless. Somewhere out there, other dragons flew through space, fierce and terrible. But here, in this moment, one dragon stood as proof that anything was possible, even hope, even peace, even belonging, especially belonging, the end.